The movie is about the famous friendly neighborhood Spider-Man, or Peter Parker, who was bitten by a radioactive spider, and for 10 years he has been the only Spider-Man saving the city again and again. He even sang his own song and fought some villains, but no matter how many hits he takes, he will always come back to save the city, since there is only one Spider-Man. Following this, New York City teenager, Miles Morales struggles to live up to the expectations of his father, police officer Jefferson Davis, who sees the hero Spider-Man as a menace. Meanwhile, Miles finds his new prep school too elite, preferring to study with normal people, but his father insists he should be fine and he struggles to adjust into it. He also tries to fail himself in his tests, but the teacher discovers this and assigns him to write a personal essay and promises she won't let him quit. Later that evening, Miles visits his uncle Aaron, who takes him to an abandoned subway station to paint graffiti while listening to music. Before leaving, a radioactive spider sneaks up on him and bites his hand, but he just brushes it off. The following day, Miles notices he outgrew his pants. The voices and emotions around are louder, and he is sweating profusely, especially when talking to a new girl named Gwen. His father questions why he snuck out last night, but Miles runs from him and notices that his hands are sticky on things, and he even walks on the walls outside, and Gwen sees this incredible phenomenon. At home, he picks up a comic about Spider-Man, and when he realizes he could be turning into Spider-Man, he runs to find Uncle Aaron. However, Uncle Aaron is out of town, and so later that night, Miles searches for answers back at the station where he got bit. There, he sees Spider-Man himself fighting a beast, the Green Goblin, to prevent him from opening an interdimensional portal. Miles gets caught in the frying pan, but Spider-Man saves him, and he realizes that the kid also has similar abilities to him. Spider-Man then heads to destroy the time machine, but he gets stopped by both Goblin and the Prowler, who work for a kingpin called Wilson. They activate the machine, which becomes unstable, and Goblin places Spider-Man between the portal lines, causing an explosion as he lays weak on the floor. Seeing the situation, Spider-Man grants Miles an override key to stop the collider machine so he could save the city from disappearing, and he promises to do it. Wilson then finds and kills Spider-Man, while Miles runs away, and Wilson sends the Prowler after him, but he manages to escape back into his room. News reports the sad death of the New York hero, Spider-Man, identified as Peter Parker, and the whole city mourns him. Following this, Miles also buys a Spider-Man costume and gathers with the citizens as Mary Jane eulogizes her husband, the Spider-Man. Miles later tries his newfound abilities of jumping the buildings, but he trips and damages the drive. He then visits Parker's grave to offer his apologies for failing, but he meets Peter B. Parker, who is also Spider-Man, but an older version, and he explains his Spider-Man story of how one day while resting, he got pulled through a portal into a different New York. Later, they introduce each other, and the kid figures out that Parker B could be from a different universe where he is Spider-Man. Miles shows him the broken drive, and Parker says he will have to collect the ingredients to make another one. Miles also discovers his ability to emit electric venom bursts, and Peter reluctantly agrees to train him in exchange for help in stealing data from Wilson's Alchemax facility to create a new drive. Peter infiltrates the Alchemax where Wilson just arrives, and Miles follows in to warn him. They enter the room from the vents, but their noise causes a scientist to hear, and Miles discovers he has the power to turn invisible. The scientist finds them in the room and is amused by the similar but different Peter Parker and traps him on a chair. However, she discovers that Peter is glitching, and if he stays too long in that dimension, his body will disintegrate. The scientist reveals herself as Dr. Olivia Octavius, and they start to fight while the invisible Miles runs with the computer. They are chased through the laboratory and surrounding forest by Octavius, but they are saved by Gwen Stacy from Miles' school, who is actually a Spider-Woman from another dimension who became Spider-Man, saved people, and she also weirdly teleported to a different universe. They then visit Peter's aunt, May Parker, who shows them Peter's equipment room with cool gadgets and Spider-Man costumes. Aunt May also reveals more spider people she is sheltering from other dimensions like Spider-Man Noir, Penny Parker, and Peter Porker, who are also deteriorating but are just trying to return home. Miles offers to disable the collider so the others can return home, but after questioning and testing him, they tell him that he lacks experience. This stresses Miles and he retreats to Aaron's home, where he discovers his uncle Aaron is actually the Prowler. Miles then hurriedly returns to May's house, where Penny has completed the new drive, but he is followed by Wilson, Prowler, Octavius, Scorpion, and Tombstone, who barge in and a fight erupts. Miles gets hold of the key, and the Prowler follows him, but he discovers it's his nephew Miles, and Wilson asks him to finish off the kid. However, Aaron spares him, but he gets fatally shot by Wilson, and Miles takes him away from the fight. Now at his dying moments, Aaron encourages Miles to keep on doing his thing, as he is the best of them, before he sadly passes away. Officer Jefferson arrives at the scene, but Miles turns invisible and disappears, leaving Jeff with his late brother, and he blames the murder on Spider-Man. The Spider team finds a sad Miles in his dorm room, and they all encourage him, since they have also lost a beloved at one point. Peter then restrains Miles to ensure his safety, and he chooses to sacrifice himself by staying behind and deactivating the collider, and he leaves with the other spiders. Miles' father later arrives at his door and apologizes for pushing him too far, and he inspires Miles to do his best in life. Miles then manages to control his powers and he frees himself. He then heads over to May, where he designs his Spider-Man suit with May's help, and he later swings away to join the other heroes. The spiders find Kingpin's tower, where he is holding a celebration to remember Spider-Man, but planning a black hole underneath, and they move on to where the collider machine is being worked on. However, Dr. Octavius and the other goons discover their presence and they exchange blows, and while Peter tries to sneak in the drive, he gets grabbed by Octavius, who prepares to end him. Just then, however, Miles surprisingly appears to save him, and Peter is happy that he can now control his powers. The power of the collider causes the building to shake, so Officer Jefferson instructs the guests to run outside, where the buildings nearby are also glitching too, with the collider causing the other multiple dimensions to appear and collude. The team also rescues Gwen from falling into the machine, and together they defeat Octavius and her team. Miles then steals the drive from Peter and plants it, while the other spiders jump through the portal and head home. The collider gets reversed, angering Wilson, who can't wait to kill another spider, and he attacks Miles. Officer Jefferson watches their fight from afar, as Spider-Man is on the verge of defeat, and probably wondering if he had mistaken Spider-Man as the bad guy. Jeff then encourages Spider-Man to get up, and he gets up and subdues Wilson with his Venom blast, and throws him at the kill switch, destroying the collider and returning the universe to normal order. Wilson and his henchmen then get arrested, and Miles calls his father, who is happy to hear from him, and he reveals that his uncle passed earlier, which Miles already knew, and he meets him as Spider-Man. Jefferson admits he misjudged Spider-Man and now recognizes him as a hero, while receiving evidence that Wilson is the actual menace. Miles embraces the responsibilities of his new life, saving people, graffiti painting with his dad, and finally meeting his roommate as Spider-Man, and he finally realizes that anyone could wear the mask, just as Peter Parker said. The other spiders also return to their lives in their own dimensions, and later, Gwen finds a way to contact Miles from her own dimension, bringing the thrilling film to an end. Thanks a lot for watching, guys. If you liked this video, please consider subscribing to our channel. I'll be back with another interesting movie recap. Until then, take care.